be giving back in kind. He was an older man, an old man. You're supposed to respect the man and all of that. But it is the old man that have been very condescending lately. Not only condescending, but disrespectful to the president, insulting the president. So I just urge you, like, he was. I want to get to some of the specific comments. You talk about, is this president even a serious person, and all of that. There are legitimate issues with Joe Bwaka that we can talk about. Some of the times we sidestep that. We don't want to talk about it because we say, oh, maybe these are personal issues. Firstly, he's an elderly statesman and all of that, so you don't want to talk about them. But they are legitimate issues. Joseph Bwaka admitted to having a health problem. So if a person wants to be president of the country, there are other people. If any Joe Blow down the street would have said, I have a health problem, we'll say that I meant personal problem. Nobody cares about that. That is his issue. But if you want to be president of our country, in fact, in America or other places, you have to get a clean bill of health. In fact, they can require you to have a clean bill of health. I think it's some of the requirements, even in Liberia. So if the president of a country, if someone aspiring for the presidency of a country can come up and say, I'm using a pacemaker, that's a legitimate issue to talk about. A pacemaker controls the heart. This is a 79-year-old man, my people. And he has a machine that controls his heart. We could delve into that as a legitimate conversation to be had. But some of the times on this show, we respected the privacy of people. Even if we on another side of the divide, we respected that. But if they have no boundaries, as far as the political discourse is concerned, they want to make it unsanitized. We can delve into the different aspects of things. We know that all of they've been acting all sanctimonious lately, pretending to know all of the different policy prescription for the development of the country, only because they're no longer at the helm of authority. They were there for 12 years. Joe Bwaka sat at the legislature, for instance. They passed 68 concession agreements. 66 of them were deemed to be fraudulently passed. He was presiding.
He was sleeping actually.
Derelict in his responsibility.
He was sleeping.
Apparently sleeping. Said nothing, derelict in his responsibility, but wants to talk about who's serious and not serious. Whose presence and absence mean nothing. When we can talk about, the Wendell Macintosh money.
Yeah, the agriculture project.
The hundreds of thousands of dollars that it is reported that he squandered. That he was also fired from LPMC, allegedly for corruption. Those are things we can talk about. So when they come and pretend as if they hold all the policy, the prescription for the governance of the country. This man was there for 12 years. But by the way, he pretends to be an innocent bystander. That he knows nothing about the governance of the country. All the problems that happened in Liberia in the last 12 years that President Ellen Johnson shall leave. Can you imagine? We also know that he is chronically indecisive. Chronically indecisive. Doesn't make decision on anything and blames other people when they make the decision. Otherwise, he wouldn't have, pick. We don't want to get to that. But yeah, Daniel.
So thank you, Bwaka. I first of all like to start with Mr. Alexander Cummings. I've always said this respectfully, that he's a political joker. A man who calls President Weah's lieutenants goons. Let's take a look at the people that is currently around him. Look at the people that are around him. Squanderers, criminals, crooks. These are people that squandered millions of dollars in this country. These are people that ruined the very future of some of us sitting here today because of our war. These are people who enjoyed on the backs of our people monopolies. You think we don't know about his Coca-Cola stuff? The blatant monopoly that ran this country? that he benefited from fat pockets, and you call people that are determined to move the country forward goons, he would have to retract that statement, because then it is an all-out disrespect from politically. Because if you draw the hard lines and we draw ours, so what
A couple of things happened yesterday. I don't know where Comey came from, but yesterday he really struggled to pronounce some words. They're not only words, but he didn't seem to be in his element yesterday.
He's getting intellectually depleted.
He was really struggling yesterday. He couldn't even pronounce.
He's just starting.
He couldn't even pronounce dangerously. He couldn't pronounce integrity. He was talking about integrally. He couldn't pronounce audience yesterday. And listen, I am not saying this because I want to joke him. Go back and listen to the clip. He kept struggling with voice. There was something wrong with Cummings on yesterday. I don't know what was it.
Maybe he didn't take a regular medication.
Yeah, I wouldn't delve into that, but there was something wrong with him yesterday. He was struggling. He wasn't in the right. And then went on to call, the president associates goons.
But the man spent 30 podcasts. Sorry to cut you off. The man introduced his campaign team 30 minutes before he recognized his wife was there. Is that a serious person? The man named his campaign team before in a luxury ballroom, before his wife sat there. A very professional woman. Guess what? 30 minutes before he recognized his wife was there. So that's not a serious person. So when we're talking about serious politicians here, we don't check on the political astronomers.
And then he kept patronizing the vice president. When somebody asking about, this is Cummings now. Somebody asked him about, the vice president said X, Y. That the censor was on course. Then he kept coming up. Oh, she's my sister. When I see her, I call her small sister and this and that. I know they put her in their government. Come on now. This is the vice tender bearer of the coalition for democratic change. She's been a part of it way in 2016. From then on, when they joined, she voluntarily became a member. Don't try to set her apart. Don't play that smart politics with us.
That's why he
and say, I won't set her apart. I won't do a joke. We have that one team.
Yep.
All the patronizing effort. And my sister, she's different. Jointly, they're going to flog you. Jointly, the two of them, John, we are Madam Joa Howard Taylor.
Well, you should call Ome Bwaka a part too. They will know why you can't call Ome Bwaka a part. A complete trickster. You see, Bwaka, part of the reason why Liberians love President Weah, he doesn't listen to all of those things those guys are saying. I said to someone yesterday, look, let me tell you, when the campaigns are open, and we get out there, President Weah gets out there, I want to see the Cummings and the Bwaka.
I was talking to a few people. I was talking to a few people in the Baptist seminary community. That's where I live. and a couple of things they don't realize. By the way, we sort of done our own background works. That community is traditionally not a CDC community. District 6. Have you noticed that?
It's always been
they tend not to vote CDC. Yeah. Because that is where you find. Because however you want to call it, there's a class struggle in Liberia.
Yep.
I don't care how you want to maybe sugarcoat it or all of that. There's a class struggle. That particular area is people who own their own properties and all of this stuff, and they tend to be members of a different class. They're not the class of people that generally support the Weah administration. So we were arguing, and then I asked a few friends of mine. They're friends, wonderful, good, great friends, and then we're arguing. I asked them, and I said. They said, we'll beat y'all, and if y'all just start getting ready now. I said, how many of you voted for George Weah in 2011? Not a single one of them put their hand up. How many of you voted for him in 2014 when he was contesting for senator? Not one of them. How many of you voted for him again in 2017? There was not a single person. So I say, you see the problem? But he became president regardless.
Yep.
So you're talking to yourself. The intellectual class, the intelligentsia, so-called, the political establishment, they're talking to themselves when they call 1 or 2 radio programs in the morning because they can listen to the show. Oh, yeah, the opinion poll said this and that. But they even care about what the Yana boys think.
No.
The market women think.
No.
The people in West Point
in about 2000, in the ghetto.
Those are that's George Weah's base.
Yes.
You forgetting people. You there talking to yourself and this and that. We're coming to we'll win the election and this and that. You're joking. Honestly.
You know.
So we just urge you to go back, re-strategize. And another thing is, when President Weah hits the campaign trail, that's a whole new ball game. He has the people. It's like a people magnet. You know, he energizes his base in ways that you've never seen. You know, he right now he's out of the country. So all of the talk you hear in there, and you know, learn at a press conference, FC, one press conference after the other, and this and that. You know, everybody issuing press conference. The moment you do that, you come to the public every other day. Your level of importance drop because we hear you every day. Every day, coming saying the same thing. Every day, talking the same thing.
But
So nobody cares anymore when coming to. Did you hear? Look, listen. We are the ones talking about this thing on the radio station. Nobody else talking about it on social media. Nobody, because they do it every time and nobody cares anymore.
But Waka, you talking about the intelligentsia and intellectual class. Do you know that take a scope at the two political leaders, the entourage. You know, Madame Sharif created what I call the petty bourgeoisies and the comprendre bourgeoisies in this country. So there's a time now that these petty bourgeoisies who are no longer having that essence, but they are crippling to return. These are the people that communists are identifying. When you have potential young people in their different communities that make up the voting population are being denied. So they are not serious people. So when they sit among themselves and they just talk off air and they make believe and they hallucinate, what do you expect? That's what I said. If you want to know the true narrative, draw the campaign lines, let's get outside. Then we see who is actually who. Whether it is the petty bourgeoisies that you follow behind people like Louis Brown and other people, or it is the typical Liberian man who feels the hitches from your continuous political lies each and every day.
Let's talk to Deputy Information Minister Jalawa Tampo for Public Affairs. He's on the line. Jalawa, good morning.
Good morning, Baka. I've been listening to the program, and the one that touched my heart and struck my attention this morning, for which I'm calling, is the fact of the matter that you just stated, that it is only our very self who are talking about this people's statement. You will realize
exactly.
Yesterday when the Vice President appeared on the Micat press briefing, when the question about Joseph Barker was asked, did you pay attention how she responded?
Yes, very, very brilliantly.
She didn't even try to mention anybody's name.
No.
And I like the analysis he gave, and that's the same thing about me in my community and everywhere I went. If you ask the same old people, they will say the same old things. But the people who are the real electorates, they are standing by. So when we get on radio and when we are in our gathering, when we are discussing, we should discuss, look, George Weah is doing this one. George Weah will do this one. George Weah has done this one. Let's just leave. Like you said, the more communists continue to come in the public glare, nobody taking serious, the more Barack continue to come in the public. Every day, the incompetence, the ineptitude, this and that, the unqualified is the mere word of these people, and nobody no longer paying attention to them.
Yeah.
They're getting to know, like this strange census we're talking about in 2008, it took the legislature, the 52nd legislature
To help them.
to set the threshold.
Yeah.
To set the, and that committee was headed by Blamo Nelson. People are forgetting. So there will always be a problem, but no one government in this world that we find ourselves in that is 100% problem free. So I continue to follow them, and they will continue to issue the press release, the press statements, and let them continue to do what they ought to do. But at the end of the day, read my lip. At the end of the day, you only have 50% of the population in Motorado listening to them. The rest of the electors and the constituents members are in the legal counties. And at the end of the day, George Weah will be announced winner of the 2023 election democratically.
Okay.
So I like the point that you raised, and that's the point we should keep sticking to. Thank you.
That's the voice of Jalawa Tampo. Jalawa is the Deputy Minister for Public Affairs at the Ministry of Information, Culture Affairs, and Tourism.
And to add up to what he said regarding when they asked the Vice President regarding Boyka's statement, something she said that was the classic answer. In the absence of the president, the vice president has the statutory responsibility to assist the president
Yeah.
in the exhibiting of the how you call it, the duties and responsibilities of our office. So even if the president is not present, there is a government. There are structures put in place. The government still runs. So I mean, when I heard him saying President we are president absent means nothing, I mean I think he just said it out of guess. Perhaps maybe he was still sleeping. Yeah.
The thing about it, and you know, another thing I noticed yesterday, Cummings tried to speak out of character. You know,
Yeah, exactly.
he was out of character. He was speaking because people been saying he's not charismatic, and so he was coming up to speak loudly.
Does that bring the charisma?
But the thing is, there was a disconnect between when he was reading and when he was actually answering questions. So in answering questions, the real Cummings came out. The soft-spoken, you know, the apparently weak character and all of that came out. But then he tried to project a strength and all of that when he was speaking from the paper and all of this stuff.
You are
could see
just
that.
who you are, my brother. You are just who you are.
You who you are. And then with the vice president, with the former vice president, I mean, it was characteristic. You know, you could barely be here from the back of the audience. You know, when you listen, you can't hear him from the back. I mean, like if you sit in the back, obviously, in any room, you wouldn't hear the vice president, the former vice president from the back of the audience. You don't hear him. Just, I mean, I say that all the time.
No,
Just,
of course.
I mean, go to listen. I mean, it's obvious. You wouldn't hear him from the back of the audience.
No, you can't.
And so that was the case again. So this just goes to say this is a tip of the iceberg. It goes to say if you want to make the discourse muddy and unsanitized by engaging in insults of the president, we are fully capable to come back.
Of course.
So we're
Manifolds.
going to do that. We're going to come back in many folds. You know, at this stage, we were going to delve into the substance of the conversation because there's nothing. I mean, it was just politicizing. The thing the international community, you know, they've talked about. They say, don't politicize the census because it's not going to benefit only the CDC government, you know, the CDC administration. It's going to benefit future governments. You know, censuses are done for future development purposes.
Yep.
So if you tell people not to, it's only going to undermine the data.
Yep.
So that's why they were telling people. But then again, they were still engaged in politicking. And then somebody put comments to the question yesterday on the podium and said, oh, I mean, the international community said the census is on course, but you hear discrediting the whole thing and say this and that. He said, oh, I'm not saying they are not telling anybody and this and that. So he's trying to play safe because he knows, you know, he needs the support of the international partners and whatever. Anyway, let's open the lines. You can call us on 086 1537 or 080 514 096, 080 514 096 or 086 561 537. I better say 0880 514 096. Yeah, we let's talk to our first caller. Yeah. Good morning.
Good morning, brother. Okay, Fafana.
Yeah, your name, where you calling from?
My name is Jason MJ Kelly. I call you from my people resident this morning.
Yeah, can I go ahead?
Thank you for the brilliant analysis. You hit a couple of issues which I don't have ample time to talk about. But if you say John Willoughby's are the multipliers, his bases are the multipliers, the younger boys, and it made me to ask, so many questions about his days in 2019. When that was the law, what the CDC.
That Joey out on the ticket?
Huh?
That Joey out on the ticket?
No, of course
No,
not.
it is set by.
Oh, my man, move on here, man. We're talking Joey out to say this and that.
We got caller there?
Good morning.
Good morning, caller.
Your name, where you calling from? Your name? Tama, go ahead.
Morning, Tama.
Okay, thank you so much, our Honorable Minister of the Telecom Affairs. You know, it's so frustrating to hear Joseph Wade insulting the president. It's very, very frustrating. If you check in local countries, Joseph Wade have no legacy that he can prove to the people of the land, to the people of local countries. So if Joseph Wade is the president, go on media and say all kind of things on President William, it's a serious, serious frustration. my honorable minister, nothing can worry us. By the grace of God, and we have to believe that 2023, George William will go back the second term for this country. And we are still in development. Then to the way you local granting when he was running as representative, when he was running as president, he went and cut down people boundaries down up to now this place. Every day and no period, the place is so depressed. So that type of person you make as president.
Can you imagine that?
So the first people should not waste their time behind Joseph Party. Should continue to support our president, which is President William, for the second term. Thank you so much this morning.
Thank you. Let's
Thank you,
talk to
Thomas.
this other caller. Yeah. Good morning.
Good morning.
Your name, where are you calling from?
Okay, I mean, this is your friend, brother. I'm calling you from local country where this is one.
Lauren Baba, how are you?
Yeah. Good, very good, Mr. Minister.
Great.
Okay, thank you so much. The money I don't monitor you. And like we have also said that if Wagan can be able to use certain languages, anyway, but we believe that coming to the city, but we are good at one time both. And we tell you always when you hear James say, Papa coming, why been room before? So, Mr. Papa, but all what you guys are saying, President will tell us that we will listen to it to understand you, so that if we're not going to the budget because of God, everything that we can both of us that we are today, we are not in darkness. Today, we are main principles, mean something that we can put up. Today, we are getting the war. Thank you, Mr. Papa.
Thank you.
Thank you, Baba.
Baba.
Thank
Thank
you,
you. Let's talk to more callers. Your name, where are you calling from?
Welcome, welcome.
Welcome. Yeah. I know. Thank you.
Thank you, Baba.
Let's take more callers. Good morning. Good morning. Your name, where are you calling from? Yeah, Maggie, go ahead.
Okay, I want to say thank you for the discussion this morning, for your presentation. You know, I can tell people that opposition again are fighting on losing battle. The father is dying, that old-time politics, where people used to just sit down and then just criticize government, without making any effort to make it that when people live better, that time is over now.
Oh, wow.
People are looking at tangible, what you can do for your people, or what you have done for your people, that
Yeah.
what people are looking at.
Yeah.
So go in the detail, the rules, and we in Moroccan, the rules, they look at the oxygen facility. So they got two facilities, one in Moroccan, one in Bomi. There are a lot of things that is happening.
Yeah.
So people need to do something that will point out and say this is what we can do. International community has come on and they come back, they say the process is going, the census process is going on. And then you sit down on one side, you try to water it down.
Yeah. The people say ongoing. It's on. It's ongoing. And they warn the politicians, say, just stop politicizing the process.
Sure, that is tough. Don't do that. This session is not on John Yati. It's all like this. All of us is national issue. Okay? Master, if I want you to go to my country, I need a sensor. Alright? When I want you property, I need a sensor.
Exactly. Exactly.
We need development, we need a sensor. So it's national thing, it's not one person thing. So let them stop politicizing everything. Anything somebody do here to politicize, that is not fun for our country. Thank you for the time.
Thank you. Let's
Thank
take
you,
more
thank you,
callers.
thank you, thank you.
Good morning.
Yeah.
Yeah, your name, where you calling from?
Abu Shari.
Abu, how is Ghanaville?
Alhamdulillah. Kadang jadi
Okay.
okay.
Okay. Go ahead.
Let two people on a Bobaka and Kumi, there was to be one person by right. Okay, but then they say, nobody one way, one of their friends, okay, now.
Greet the people.
They say the president said that the brethren.
So I'm looking at competition, okay? Okay, if yesterday, from this speech, okay, so yesterday, coming for the state too.
Can you imagine? The other man told, the other man said, no, myself, I gotta put myself in front too. Yeah. Oh, he told them that yesterday.
Yep.
You know, and this is the arrogance that we've been talking about. I mean, these people played the national anthem the last time for Joe Boakai to speak.
Now he called himself president now.
And now he's telling journalists to call him Mr. President. Imagine if President Weah had done that. George Weah back in the day, who's president now, had done that, what the outcry would have been.
But this is something we must take very seriously. Thank you very much.
And the thing about it is, I remember they were so confident in 2017. They were so confident. I remember, because you know what they were confident? All the different opinion polls, they were winning it. The different opinion polls. They will call the other radio station and win the opinion polls. And that's why I said they can be talking to themselves. They're talking to themselves. You know, bunch of people in the intellectual class and this and that, they listen to the radio. They all put the call. When they say, who you vote for? I'll call for Joseph Boakai. They were talking to themselves. 2017, I said to you, they were happy. Oh, they were so confident. Until the result came, they flooded them. Because you know what? They didn't count the Yana boys who are riding the back. They didn't count the marketers. They didn't count the people in the communities. They didn't count the students who were passionate about George Weah because he's, of his youthful appeal, of his stardom. They didn't count them. They didn't count people in the counties, the feelings of people in the county. When they're talking to them, among them said, oh yeah, they did. I mean, there was some opinion put out there by, the late president of the PU. I don't want to, Abdullah Kamara. Few opinion polls. They won all. But then the votes on the ground,
14 out of 15.
they went there all. Let's take some more calls. Good morning. Good morning.
Caller, good morning. Let's take the next one.
Okay, let's talk to this one right here. Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Fofana.
Your name, where you calling from?
Well, this is Mark Doko.
Morning, Mark.
I'm from the office of the Intellectual Alliance of Liberia on the Difference Freeway.
Morning, Mark. Morning.
Well, let me appreciate you guys for the excellent presentation. And like every Friday, if I miss the Micat hour, I feel like really sad in my whole day. But it's a good thing to listen to factual information as it relates to the development that the government is doing. And sadly, I monitor the speech from a dead man walking in Hera Costa War, Joseph Boakai, who's want to castigate a man, an humanitarian president who aided him in his sick bed. That's deception. Can you denigrate President Weah who done a lot for you? That's complete deception, and that is a deception this young man want to bring to the public, and it's bad. Joseph Boakai have got no face to the Liberian people, even the Lofa that he hailed from. People from Lofa have not getting the vibes from this man since his inception in government, 42 or 44 years. It is a man that you want to elect as president of the Republic of Liberia? We said no.
And like the previous caller said, he told the journalist to call him president. And he even did it when he appeared on Truth FM. And
Wow.
he was bad to that.
Wow.
He should learn to start calling me president. And when he said, okay, Mr. President, that's a deception.
Really?
You cannot
Yes,
do
of course.
this. Of course. Listen to the clip. Mr. Fofana.
It's true. I thought you heard
Listen to
it.
the clip. And Mr. Cummings, we're not going to give Mr. Cummings relevance because I've shown the latest survey they conducted by themselves.
Maybe we need a change.
He dropped to 4%.
Maybe we need a change.
4%.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, imagine he was at 7% during previous election and they just conducted survey by their own self within the 15 political subdivision. He dropped 4% of the votes. So how can you get this man as a competitor to you? I mean, he was not a glatter in this race. We don't count him. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, brother. Thank you.
Maybe we need to change the whole desperate tag from Cummings, because if somebody start calling themselves president, I mean that the real
There is a motive. I always
the
said
real
it.
desperate person.
Yeah, yeah.
Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Boakai.
Yeah, your name, where you calling from?
Thank you so much. My name is Yanti, and I don't cover for the Office of the Information Alliance of Nigeria along the Japan Freeway.
Yeah, Christian, go ahead.
Well, I think the brother who left the line, Mark Tuku, said it right. You see the desperation in people like Kumi, where has grown to understand that they can do any other thing for the presidency of the country, even though he still remains at his 7%, and even if there will be a growing 7%, he will not just jump up to 15%. He will start from 7 to 8. So, but the point is, I read the statement from Joseph Yuman Boakai. I think that statement is marked by great deception and was just written by Amos Stewart that would just be read by that woman.
You know,
don't know what you were reading.
That's
Yeah, I
why
think
I
so.
was thinking the same, because it is so unlike him. You know, they want to make him to go guatad, I mean, so to speak. the Liberian way.
Honestly, that's not him.
It is so unlike him, you know.
That's not the one he can be, but the woman is cool. Each has his own way of diminishing people's thought and their strength. That woman not get strength again, but they just forcing him to do things that absolutely not his way. But we deal with them one after the other. One of the things he said that the census process has been a recruitment
Yes.
process for the census was done on a partisan basis.
No, he didn't say on a partisan. He said all of those that are doing the enumeration and seditions. That's what he said, which is sad.
Very sad, very sad. So one of your sisters this program that I phoned on the last time, and I said, for example, your station, the OKFM Bombay County correspondent, is a member, is an enumerator. He was in the field when Julius then phoned to him, and he said, Julius, I'm currently in the field now. I'm doing household marking, and we are doing household listing. So Julius asked him, are you an enumerator? He said, yes, I'm working with I'm an enumerator. So that credit proof to Joseph Tuaka assertion that even an OKFM station, an independent station in this country, reporter or correspondent is working with this latest party. Is he a partisan of the CDC? I think it is unfortunate. Some of these statements coming from the old man, they just want to make it brutal, but yet then the politics of the old man is not a brutal politics. In fact, the old man, Joseph Imam Kwakai, want to stay apart, stay away from the presidency, but the rest of the other people, Mo Ali, the Amos Stewart, and the rest of the people that are putting him into this particular process of the presidency, we know the old man doesn't have strength. For example, he said in that release that he read that the census is over 2 years, but who should have conducted census? The beginning of the entire census process, the mapping process should have begun in 2017. At that time, he was in leadership, but they did not do it. But now, shifting the blame of the government.
Okay.
The government that has
Thank you,
tried-
Christian. We gotta go. Let's talk to this other caller. Good morning.
Thank you. I appreciate the both of you for this platform.
Okay. Your name,
My name is Aman Kosbon, and I joined the conversation from 2015.
okay, Amma.
I'd like to begin from where Christians stop. You know, the vast federal vote is for characterized by mixed information. I mean, how can you allow yourself as a state person to be, given an incorrect information, then you pick to the microphone and spill those incorrect information to the public? I mean, it's painting your character in those years of experience, quote unquote, that you have had your
We gotta go. Thank you so much. But another thing I just wanted to mention. In fact, I wanted to pick up what Christians talk. The former vice president said that all of those doing the enumeration right now are seditions. That seditions they pick. You couldn't be more disrespectful to the people who are doing the enumeration. That is just a total disregard of the patriotic efforts
And political
that
bias.
these people are exerting.
Yep.
17,000 of them. There were 28,000 people that applied. They were reduced to that number, almost 18, 20,000 people, 17,000 of them. The former vice president is essentially saying that all of them are seditions. So, I just want to open the lines and ask people, and ask people to, and ask people to, those of you doing the enumeration, we appreciate your call. Call us and tell us how you feel. But the former vice president saying that all of you that were recruited as seditions. Like, really? So when the former, let's take that call. What's the call?
Yeah, you go ahead first. When he
So,
speaks.
like when the U.S. ambassador and the whole international partners in Liberia, all of them said, politicians to stop politicizing
Good
the
morning.
process. That's exactly what he was talking about.
Good morning.
Good morning, your mother, right?
Yeah, is this Edward Gizzy?
Yes, this is Edward.
Okay, yeah, you're live. Go ahead.
Okay, I want to say good morning to our guys here, and thank you for the show. I was actually busy when I saw up to the reason I heard certain things about one woman called Joseph Walker. With no disrespect, he's an elderly, I respect all that, but you see the downfall of the 8-year lab project for ya? Are you getting me?
Yeah,
we are.
Oh.
The downfall of the 8-year lab project for ya came from the angle of Joseph Walker. What do I mean by that? From the beginning of the project, I used to drive for car rental service for first class.
Okay.
First class used to be adjacent to the IA office where IA is right now. There's a fence right by the IA office. On your left hand side, you see vehicles parked there, which will have a car rental service there. So, Mr. McIntosh normally use our vehicle for the operation, but I never had many vehicles. That was the beginning of the project. So, we were in charge of logistics and stuff like that. But Joseph Walker in question, the reason why we are bringing him today is because he was receiving 300 gallons a week, every week, for his own board. This is my name, this is my number. We were giving 300 gallons on a weekly basis. And this thing was simply the functions of the lab project, because one person is getting 300 gallons on a weekly basis. What about the other machine? What about the machine that can handle the rice? What about the machine that cultivates? So, if we come in the public space to criticize President Weah, I wish I had the opportunity to sit on the radio, because the informations are voluminous, are gathered in my possession. Joe Bonner got no forum. He should even be speaking right now. This man destroyed this project at his own will, because he wanted the project to run the way he wanted. Because he came to be someone who got knowledge in agriculture. When we got in Foya, even before the machine school, if he arrived from Libya, there was a serious issue. This man was always busy asking Mr. McIntosh for tip up that way. I made a machine you bring in here, and then I want to cut while am I getting the project from Micat.
Oh, you were Gizzy, you were with the project?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
I went with the project, telling you what I do.
Wow.
This is good information.
Too long. I got photos here. I can send it to you. I got photos of them. I was recently for you. I wanted the machine. Somebody was saying useful. Somebody are useless. This old man is very destructive. This old man put 8 lab down today. That place is just sitting. That project will hire at least 4 times in Liberians. By now, we don't have any rice plants today. No. Like what would have been, I'm not recording that staff from pencil or giving you rights. So the beginning of the project, if you saw our operations, but this old man was busy keeping our fuel on the daily basis. Every week we got to get 300
Asking for kickback.
Every week, 300 gallons. One person. That ballots. I was always like the same thing. So, it kind of made people talk about this, but actually, it's not helping me. My people like us who very far line got information, but the opportunity is not given to speak out. When it comes to comments, oh God, you see, sometimes when you crazy back, president material will not go get a president because they will got never have a crazy person. Comments is confused. Comments boil down.
Okay, we gotta go. Thank you so much. I'm so sorry.
Thank you, Gizzy.
Yeah, Gizzy, we gotta go. But you know, we're gonna hold on to the cause for now. I just want to talk about, before we get to, you know, the whole USA C-Square project, but also the government's statement this week. I just want to talk about the fact that Liberians should be mindful. You know, there's been all kinds of different prophets coming in, professing to be prophets, you know, coming and promising that we're going to make this country better and all of that. I mean, it happened during the Tubman time. You know, there were people promising to make the country better. Didn't happen. Talbot, he was killed. There were people promising to make the country better. It didn't happen. Doe came. The same thing. There are people saying that we can do better. It didn't happen. There was a war in 1990. Taylor came 7 years later. There were people promising that they could do better. It didn't happen. In 2005, we had President Salif. There were the same politicians. In fact, Joe Barker was part of that group. You know, that they said they squandered the opportunities. They didn't do anything. You know, there were so many people promising to do better and all of that. So the problem with Liberia, there will always be these prophets pretending. You know, the only thing they're looking for is an opportunity for a job. Louis Brown is one person. He's all over the place now criticizing the president. But guess what? He did the same thing to President Salif.
Mm-hmm.
He was there, no president has so much desecrated this and that. But then soon again, small joy on it, how they can call well unrest.
She may use the same mouth.
The same man you are talking to earlier, you were Kim my how they call. You know, look, like what problem? The man who the leader is.
The Bella politics.
The Bella. All the people there want jobs.
Yeah, the Bella politics.
All they want. All of them are just jobs they're looking for. The man to say, they want to do better and this and that. Look, I mean, some people, they're out of job now, so they didn't get opportunities right now. I mean, they don't have the income. So they just want job. So they'll say, okay, the worst president, I mean, come on now. You downsized half of the workforce and brought in your partisans.
You didn't see that political.
2006. Right, they used to call it right size.
Yes.
You know, you bring the poor man down, you bring in UP partisan, and you call it right size. You know. So, I mean, you gotta be careful when you're listening to these so-called prophets. You know, they are just the same old. You know, the thing about it is, I feel sorry for the ordinary people who can read between the lines, because some of the times, these people will come, as soon as 4 years, the next year, they start asking that question and say, but we didn't promise you this, you know, that's going to be the new language.
You know,
that the same old people. There's no new thing that never happened like before. That the same set of people promising the same old thing, we'll get you this, we'll get you that. Look, that man was there for 12 years. 12 years, you were there. I mean, we tested, we tried him, we've seen what he can deliver. All he did was blame his former boss. Say he got 17 grievances against the former boss that he didn't express to her, by the way. I mean, why you think President Salif got a problem with him? If you think about it, why President Salif got so much problem? You know, you sit on the woman. Firstly, he never had anything to do with the presidency. Never, ever had anything to do with the presidency. President Salif handpicked him. When I say never had anything to do with the presidency, he was not prominent. Nobody knew him. From nowhere, President Salif handpicked him, brought him to prominence, made him popular, made him vice president, gave him the kind of wealth that he has. What he did, he holds 17 grievances against President Salif. Then, anyway, let's move on. You know, so this week the government issued a statement, by the way, against, you know, some other people professing that they were not happy with some of the things the U.S. ambassador was saying, and that they were going to stage a protest action. But then the thing is, on the two shows, I didn't listen, by the way, but people are saying that some of the things that were said on his shows were insolent against the U.S. ambassador, and it's sort of, they didn't want to, promise to protest, but they were sort of promising to protest against his person, which is has some security implication. Not only is this man not only this man a major a U.S. diplomat, but that, yeah, he's also obviously a representative of the United States of America in Liberia. And so the government issued a statement immediately, firstly condemning the action, urging journalists to use their platforms wisely, restating its commitment to free speech, but also stating that there are clear safeguards under the laws of Liberia. That there's an adage that where your right stops, another person's right begins. So when people are talking about, firstly, the government also said they didn't want anything that sort of jeopardizes its long-standing diplomatic and historic ties with the United States of America. Not only did the government speak against this, but also the ruling Coalition for Democratic Change also issued a statement essentially condemning it. And we want to add our voice. You have your fundamental rights, but there are clear guidelines, when you're expressing your rights and all of that. People have their rights. Like the government said in that statement that it respects the concept of global governance. In other words, that the war is sort of a global village. That one government has the right to talk about rights and democratic issues, around the world, and it may so happen to be in your particular country. And so the government respects that. If there are issues, it's going to be raised on a government-to-government level. There's no need for any intervention by anybody, any member of the citizenry, to go up to the U.S. Embassy and say they're protesting and all of that. That is something that is totally unwelcome. Government doesn't condone that, will not condone that. The president has expressed his displeasure against that. So has the acting chairperson of the cabinet currently, while the president is away. So that is something that the government absolutely condemns. So if you have your issues, nobody stops you from voicing your opinion. This is a democratic society. You can say, I don't like this. But to make comments that are deemed to be threatening to, the representative in Liberia of the free world, that's something that is not in the best interest of Liberia. Both international stature or international relations and our relations with the United States of America.
Yeah, thank you, Baka. So the same thing you said, the issue of protestation in our country today has taken a different roadmap. And I listened to a few journalists who were talking about even in the U.S., you find people, they're protesting. The government of the United States of America provides the opportunity. Yes, it is true. But when you have a foreign diplomat in a foreign country, where the bilateral ties between these countries are traditional and long-standing, and one of their citizens are threatened, it becomes an undermining factor to that long-fought relationship. Now, our generation today must note that the government of Liberia, in fact, the country Liberia in the United States of America, has come a long way. It's never going to be a wrong thing if the U.S. government, through the embassy, would try to make some corrections in some of our democratic activities. It is the same U.S. government that has given us great scorecards, points on the MCC.
Yeah.
It is the same U.S. government that has applauded President Weah for good democratic tenets. It is the same U.S. government that has stated clearly that this government economic drive is moving towards the right direction. So all of these things point to the fact that our relationship is not a sour grape relationship. It is a relationship that stems from the long struggles between both nations. Okay, both nations. All right. There were time in the West when there were no place for slaves, free brothers and sisters to be repatriated. The corridors of Liberia was open. And since then, that long-lasting relationship with the U.S. has existed. Today, many of our brothers and sisters are wholesomely benefiting from the greatness of the United States of America. So if Liberians got issue with the U.S. ambassador statement or his comments, he's doing his job. The best way to channel your grievances or your concerns
It's through your
is
government.
through your government. That is the modus operandi. Okay? Ambassador Micat is not a Liberian. Ambassador Micat has not violated our democratic tenets. Even if he had done so, it is the government responsibility to make the complaints. I think we need to depoliticize some of the way we do things, because we may be trying to say something that actually makes sense, but we do it in the wrong way. That's the reason why the government was very responsible enough to come out clearly, distance itself, and also call on her citizens to desist from the act.
Yeah.
Who knows, Bwaka? The individuals in the studio could also be some surrogates from the very political opposition.
That's the thing, you know. So in fact, the CDC statement was that it is not the CDC. Those
Of
people
course.
purporting to be members of the CDC are not members of the CDC. So it could possibly be a ploy or some other folks in the opposition to put, you know, the governing party at odds, you know, with the international partners.
So you see, so you look at this. Just at the point in time when we were discussing our 12 over 20, the MCC, then the issue of relations came up, and they are clothed with the information, but they decided to politicize it heavily to make it seem like this was a terrible situation.
Yeah.
As if that wasn't enough, this is a political compoundment on the administration. Now they move and send people in studio and say, look, you're going to say you're against the fact that the ambassador is saying X, Y, and Z. No responsible government, no responsible political ruling party will ever do that. It's not possible. So we are just saying to our Liberian brothers and sisters out there that's listening to us on our voice today, that your government that you elected has never done such and will never. We are responsible, and any citizen for any reason that would try to do such will have him or herself playing under the laws of Liberia. We will protect our foreign officers here the same way they protect us when we are out there. We need to respect these people.
You know, the thing is, we can disagree, and as a matter of fact, there's nothing stopping us from disagreeing with some of the policies of. If you have a fundamental disagreement, you can express it.
Yes.
You know, you can express it, and nobody's stopping you from doing that. That's the nature of democracy. So nobody's saying, well, you can't come out and say, well, I don't agree with the policy of the U.S. government, you know, under the Global Magnitsky Act, for instance, because same as I said, that was the subject of the conversation on a particular radio.
Yeah.
You know, so if you can come and say, I don't agree, I don't think they should, and all of that. I mean, that's your right under
give
the
your
laws
reasons
of
why.
Liberia. As a matter of fact, the Liberian Constitution guarantees that fundamental right. The only thing we don't guarantee is violence. You know, you can go and perpetrate violence somewhere else. You can go and maybe undermine the international and diplomatic interests of the country, maybe at the foreign embassies such as the United States of America. We're not going to condone those stuff. But if you can come out on the radio, like I'm about to say now, you know, that there was also a comment on, you know, I think it was the Undersecretary of State for Global Affairs on global affairs or something that was present here, and that the U.S. ambassador used the occasion to remind that he said, well, 3 months ago we were at this very point, and then we remind, and then we issued sanctions against some officials of the government of Liberia, and said that you know, under the Magnitsky Act, that certain people engage in certain transactions and all of that, and then all of the papers. This is not you know, talking about the U.S. embassy, because he was clear on what he said.
Yeah.
He was categoric. He said what he said. So it's up to you to understand what he said.
And they rephrased everything.
So they rephrased and started to say, oh, it means that they're not supposed to engage in, you know, any contact with. I mean, they're not supposed to have. The Elections Commission not supposed to have contact with them and all of that. No, come on now.
The same ambassador said that.
The ambassador said, in fact, the Magnitsky, the press release clearly said certain transaction. It said those engaged in certain transaction risk being sanctioned. Certain transaction.
Transaction.
Listen to the man. The man said certain transaction. What kind of transaction, you know, are those? He also said it is not, this whole Magnitsky thing is not so much about prosecution, because you know why he said not so much about prosecution, because he knows it's not as a result of the outcome of any judicial process. It was not a judicial process, but Liberia respects the voice of the U.S. and because of our diplomatic, long-standing diplomatic ties and the position the U.S. holds in the international community and the power to wield. That's why the government knows that whatever position they offer carries a lot of weight.
Yep.
That's why these people were suspended immediately and what have you. But mind you now, you can't go so much as violating their fundamental rights. You know, they got some rights under the Constitution of Liberia.
Yep.
The right to associate, the right to move freely. I mean, you can only hold a person as a result of an outcome of a judicial process. So if you deny him, the laws of Liberia clearly say that only people that can vote or be voted for are convicts. So how can you say somebody can be voted for or vote in an election when he's not being convicted of any crime? You know, so you don't want to violate the person's right under the Constitution too. You know, that's why Micat was very categorical. He said certain transaction, but it's not so much of a prosecution. And he said, as far as representation or running for office, it's up to the Liberian government. You know,
Exactly.
And he also said that, I mean, in fact, their representative, not him in particular, but their representative in one of the radio stations, and they asked him, say, oh, was there a judicial process? He said, no, it's not a judicial process. So if it was not a judicial process in the state, but America reserves the right to say, well, I mean, we don't want you to spend your money, the money that they deem to be stolen, don't want you to spend in the country. But they can, you know, I mean, it's sort of shady. And it having been saying that to us in Liberia, you know, it's just kind of tough to, I mean, it's something to look over. Like, you know, Liberian government now can be seen, if there was no judicial process, you can be seen as violating other people's fundamental rights. You know, like I was talking about the right to associate, the right to, those are the rights that are guaranteed under the Constitution of Liberia. So, but another thing that the government said, I mean, another thing that is clear is that, you know, the government is reviewing these things, and as the Minister of Justice is reviewing, and maybe the proper representation is going to be made, you know, to the U.S. Embassy, you know, to have those evidence, you know, brought to the Ministry of Justice, and maybe the government of Liberia, you know, can review them and decide to prosecute based on the weight of the evidence available to it. So that's not something that's totally off the books, I understand. But at this point in time, you know, there's been some misquotation in the paper. August 16 press statement the government issued, they didn't really say, oh, the government suspended and said that it recognizes the position of the U.S. and that it knows it carries a lot of weight. That's why it's going to be suspending. That was it. You know, other people have gone as far as saying the government said it was going to prosecute, why it didn't prosecute. Nowhere in our press conference it said that. Nowhere in our press statement. It was issued August 16. So check your facts. Some of the time, they'll go as far as checking these things.
Yeah, before coming up to,
Yeah.
you know, to make some. So yeah, so it's good that we are able to provide our people the right information, because I've always said, Baka, the more you don't talk about these issues, and these issues are left in the hands of the wrong people, it does the public serious, I call it, it becomes something that the public suffers for, all right? Misinformation, disinformation. So we were very prompt enough to have done what we've done to ensure that this doesn't continue. We understand the concerns of our people. Like you said, the Magnitsky Act speaks across several factors from given by interagencies. Okay? So it doesn't necessarily say that these people are labeled criminals. All right? It doesn't necessarily say that people cannot have certain interaction with them.
Yeah.
It does not.
It says that.
No, I mean,
it says you can have certain
granted.
transactions.
Yeah,
but they have to tell us what are those transactions.
Okay.
You know?
I know some may be some
And they want banking institutions
exactly.
not to have significant transactions,
So
except otherwise, you know, exempted or something like that. So, yeah.
So you see, but all in all, it also does not take away from them the political liberties. Does it?
No, that's the thing. No, in fact, they themselves said that they had two officers at OKFM, two officers of the US Embassy that clearly explain these things. They say it doesn't. I mean, there's not a judicial process. It doesn't take away these people
political liberties.
I mean, yeah, the civil liberties and all of that. You know, some of the civil liberties are to, you know, to run for election, be contested for, you know, that. Unless maybe they are clear. So, but then I see how they can call the papers extrapolating to mean, oh, they're not supposed to run and they're not supposed to be associated with any this, that. I mean, maybe we need to understand exactly what that certain transaction means.
Which of course could also help.
You know, maybe the request need to be made, and then find out say, what are those transactions? You know.
Yeah. So, but anyway, at least we've been able to inform the people regarding the issue of this.
Another thing I want to talk about is coins. We got coins back in the country. Yeah, you know, the last time I saw coins in the country, I think it was sometime
It was
around.
in the early 90s because
Yeah,
I think
early
it-
ni-
it-
yeah,
it
that was
just
the
had
last
regular-
time.
yeah. So around 91, 92, 93.
So the
was
children who
all-
were born 1994, then sequence. I
Yeah.
can bet
No,
they
by
sequence
93
in
was
the
out of the market.
country. But girl, look at me.
But she never saw coins.
She does some coin.
$20.
You want to talk about anyway, but yeah, but some of the people born 94, 95, they didn't see coins. So coins are back on the market. We have $5 and $10 denomination. You know, people have been having fuss. Some of the time you ride a bike, you know,
Say
you
no
go into a
change.
place, no change.
I get 10
You're
out.
forced to get a bike, man. But
Beginning get
you know,
10.
when you're supposed to get 50, that man get deliberately tell you not get
C'est
change.
pas, like I'm put it in la
You know.
c'est pas get you.
Yeah. So now we have, but before the coin scheme, we had a $100 denomination that was brought on the market first. That was in
Yes.
2001, 2021. Yeah. 2021. And then this year we had 2022. We had the
500.
$50, the $20 banknotes. I think the 500 already out too.
Yeah, the 500. It's out.
500 out, yeah.
Close.
So now we're beginning to see the 5 and 10s in coins. So coins going to be back for the first time. So we're going to be having lower level denomination. What that's going to do is it's going to greatly help with, firstly these conflicts that used to ensue, but also economic issues. They're going to help with inflation because people used to just put prices up because we don't have lower denomination. Some of the time they won't tell you say 25 cents or $25. They don't get $5.
Yeah.
Then you get 30 or you get $50.
And they want you to leave that change there.
And then when you leave the cheaper there. So now we'll get 25, we'll get 35, we'll get, all those stuff you get paid in lower denominations. So that is the benefit. And you see, this is the level of transformation that's happening on President Weah. For 12 years, we don't have coin in the country. 12 years, we don't have coins in this country. In the last 4 years, and some of the time they can get dismiss these things. We won't talk about the benefit. And mind you, when I talk to the people, I say, look, there are certain group of people in this country that are dedicated to dismissing everything President Weah does because they lost an election. You can joke with it, but that's a fact. He paid people fees or wire free. It's all what I want me. He made university, that was unprecedented.
It means a lot.
He made tertiary education free of charge. He said, but why me? It mean nothing. Now, he's brought in the different currencies. You know what President Ellen Johnson studied then they want to bring in currency in 2017? We had the old legacy bank, they were all money. They didn't take it from the market.
No.
They came and dumped the other new money on the market. So there were the two money in circulation. The thing that cost, that thing cost, the kind of inflation that we had in the country, it spilled over into 2018, 2019. That one we had a high level of inflation. Because they didn't withdraw, the point they said no the bowl. There's no economic matter. They didn't withdraw the other money from the market. They just left the other one there and dumped the other new one on it. So the new government said, no, but they not correct. So they decided taking the old money from the market. And now that's why people say, oh, they printed money, but we're not seeing it in the market. Because the laws in economic state that if you just dump the money, the prices will go up because the money will become valueless.
Yeah.
So they're doing it in piecemeal, small. And who's doing that? President Weah. How can we manage to bring the inflation down? That the United States government said, oh, but the Liberian government doing well with inflation. From 30% up to 7.8%. Even Ghana said can make it. Even Sierra Leone said can make it.
Even Nigeria.
Even Nigeria can make it, and Liberia made it. So these are things happening under who? President Weah. Then we come to the roads. Send the country of 11,000 kilometers of roads. Under 1,000 have been paved since the country foundation. You know how many thousand being paved under President Weah? First we have 100 and some more kilometers, 130 some more kilometers already paved. We got about 350 some more kilometers being worked on. By the time we complete, we're talking 600 or so, 500 or 600 kilometers. That is just one president. The whole country, since creation, we're talking about when they fix 1 point something kilometers, 1 point something thousand kilometers of road. The other man, the president who just came 4 or 5 years, he's fixing almost 500 kilometers of roads in this
Just almost 5 years.
almost 5 years. He now built 2 hospitals already. 2 hospitals.
And there are several more.
There are several more being constructed.
Riverside,
Riverside, Bapole, all the places.
Yeah.
He built almost finishing 2 parks
Yeah.
in his time.
Yeah.
2 parks. So when you hear the people talking and say they may not qualify, they may not this, you know what they're talking about? You know who they're talking to? They're not used to people like you and myself being in power.
No.
They're not used to it. So they say, when they say they're not qualified, they mean you're not supposed to be there.
They want the elites and the bourgeoisies. They don't want
Exactly.
people like us.
No, we're not going to go into the whole,
No, but it's true.
but it's a fact.
But
I mean, we can talk about.
that's a fact.
You can talk about some of the class struggles they happen in all countries.
Yeah.
How they can call him. Jair Bolsonaro was defeated recently by Lula because he was a blue-collar worker
Of course.
in Brazil. So
Of course.
that was a legitimate issue to be talked about.
Of course.
Some of the politicians in America can talk about, I'm a representation of the common people.
Of course.
These are the super rich. So that's the kind of issue we're talking about in
Of course.
Nigeria. President Weah represents the downtrodden. And there are other people who aren't used to the downtrodden.
Most of the lieutenants
being authority.
came from the downtrodden.
They aren't used to the downtrodden being authority. And so they are the ones in authority. So when they tell you, say, all that condescending remark they can be making, they're incompetent, they're inept, they simply mean you are not the one to be there. They're not used to that kind of person
Exactly.
being there. They're not you the one supposed to be there. Because look at the people that are in President Weah government. Sons and daughters of market women. So exactly. So when you hear some of these remarks, it's just good for you to read between the lines
And see
know
for yourself.
And see for yourself. This man, there was an attempt by him, in fact, to reduce the astronomical payroll, because there was a point in this country when people were making $20,000, $10,000, $15,000, $25,000, just because they were ministers and in certain government portfolio and all of that. They had tons of money at their disposal called special allowance that they could just dole out to people that they like. Either based on their proximity or maybe their political allegiance. Say, we'll just give it to you. Yeah, I mean, you will get a special allowance, be up and this and that. So the harmonization came. And I'm sure, understand, I'll be the first to admit that there are some issues with the harmonization. Some people have legitimate problems, like the folks at the Ministry of Information. Some other people there, they haven't gotten pay. I mean, they haven't gotten a certain level of pay increase for some time now. They've been clamoring. That has been the issue at the Ministry of Information recently. But we're trying to
thankfully, at least the Ministry of Finance and CSA.
The Ministry of Finance is promising that they're going to make some intervention. The Vice President addressed that during her conference, but we have Assistant Minister Jura Sana on the line right now. Let me talk to him. Jura, good morning.
Good morning, Ministers Fofana and Thomas.
Good morning, sir.
I heard you say 12 years ago, Queens has never been introduced. Let me take you back. Since 1990 Civil War.
I said 12. I meant more than that.
I'm sure.
Oh, okay.
What's that?
Yeah, what's that?
President Dr. Sawyer introduced new money with the seal of librarian, also called the police badge, police badge. He did not introduce coin. President Taylor introduced new librarian set of money where you have President Doe and President Thomas' photo on it.
Yeah.
He did not introduce coin. Ali introduced money where you have $500 notes. She did not introduce coin. It is our government that is introducing coins. I will be 4 times that money have been introduced by 4 presidents, 1 interim president and 3 elected. Are you with me?
Yeah, we are.
The one that introduced coins. So it's a surplus. As you said, many times we'll leave our team for drivers.
Yeah.
Even if you had small denomination, no change, but now that's not the case anymore.
Yeah.
And the advantage is this. According to CBL analysts, CBL officials, a piece of coin takes not less than 25 years in circulation. Because the iron.
Yeah.
So it takes about 25 years or more. You can still use it on paper or notes. So the advantage here is the 10 and the 5 they have printed, it will take several years more before they can print new ones. So that will also ease the economic burden of printing new money on the market.
Yeah,
so
reduce inflation.
I just called to make this execution also. And again, I always say, thanks to all of you guys who always go to this show. I started at 7:30 to give you a better rooms. I know my young brother, my colleague, Thomas can't wake up soon, but this time around, it was all about system. You need to do rehearsal, you need to get prepared because you'll be bombarded.
Yeah.
So every time you guys appear, you'll do exactly what we expect from the team who come, make a hell of a later who run.
Yeah.
We are doing extremely well. But if you think those who say we can't go, our government can't pay 7 after 3 months, those who say after 1 year, we are going to collapse. If you think they will come and tell you hallelujah, then you got to die and come back.
I know.
I repeat, but the biggest number of Lebron people recognize what we are doing. The biggest numbers of Lebron people know that President Weah is here for change, and they got 2 changes. They got negative change and they got positive change. Our is positive change. So I just want to call this morning to get that update to you. Thank you very much for accepting my call. And I always like every time when I call, they introduce me first. That's a first for me.
That's Jura Sado. He said that's a plus for me.
Yeah. The thing is, these coins are necessary now. You see, they also help in even handling inflation too. I remember before the war, most of our people who come here for us today, I mean, they didn't see that one. We used to find all the coin in the water, back out, when it rain.
Yeah.
My man, you ever find money? When you hear people say my picking,
I know.
I swear you can find money. We used to find. So at least we will start to show our children too, like my daughters. I'll start to show them the late $10 and the $5 coin. You know, it's important.
Let's talk to this caller. Good morning.
Good morning.
Your name, where are you calling from?
My name is Titus Shad. I'm calling from Boston.
Morning, Title.
Let me salute all you guys for being very steadfast. A very good show. But I'm so much in love with you guys. You continue to provide strategy and means for coming and back.
What you, eh? Go ahead.
That didn't pay you a dime. If you don't have recycled people coming in our country, we don't vote for strangers. Please tell him that we don't do that. All right? Don't worry, I was living in that slum over there. Was studying according to the story. I don't even feel that. But it was a bad time. The roads are all that connected. There was no lighting system. And go there, compare the houses and go there and look at the environment.
Yeah.
President Weah is doing extremely very, very well. As I indicated earlier, they just want to see him progressing, but it's a big lie.
Yeah.
The polls will be defeated. Can you imagine? If you can imagine, if somebody was 7%, 7% over the past time. How can you compare yourself to somebody else from most perspective? How can you do that on the side? And besides that, can you imagine? The comments in the broadcast individuals and what I do, they refuse to reconcile. They can't even speak. How can you lead this kind of a country with over 7 million people? How can you do that?
Yeah.
And we ask not to put it inside, not to 5%. They want to extend for it up to, wow, that is very excellent woman, very, very astute.
Yeah.
And of course, it's very clear. But it's not for this thing, this is for the country. It's not for the fun, it's for the country. All right? And this vice president will say that I do extremely well. And they do aggression for power, they do all kinds of stupid things on that side. They do all kinds of things. And they want to come in and completely desperate for power. So how can he take over Bangladesh? Like I say, can you do this like that?
Okay, again. Let me mention another thing that's happening this week, so we can open the lines. You know that the U.S. president, by the way, who was attending the G20 summit. By the way, the G20 is a summit of the wealthiest countries on the planet. You know, they meet annually since 2008. You know, and they talk about global. They talk about investing, global investment, the economy, sustainable development, and all of those stuff. One of the things the U.S. president mentioned was the fact that they're going to be partnering. U.S. is going to be partnering with C-Square. You know, C-Square is the organization that brought in fiber cable in Liberia in 2017, but it was only confined to Monrovia and its environs. So in 2021. That organization was given license to expand electricity to the borders of Sierra Leone, of Guinea and Ivory Coast. So it's going to be benefiting additional 1 million people in Liberia.
Internet.
So this is an investment Okay, I see a call that is important that I need to take. I
Yeah,
don't know.
really.
Madam Andy, I'm on the. You want to speak on the radio? Oh, okay. Oh, no. Okay. There's a private call. They will call you back. Okay. All right. Uh, she, sorry, distracted completely. Yeah. Anyway,
We're
so
talking about-
C Square was is a company that is engaged with fiber, ICT kind of infrastructure and all of that. And the government of Liberia worked with them in 2021. So the government of Liberia began this process in 2021 to make sure they get a license from the LTA. LTA granted them a license to expand. I think it was almost in the tune of some $10 million sort of investment. So the American government is announcing that they're going to be working with them to expand internet access across Liberia. So that's another major thing that's going to be happening under President Weah. So if you ever thought that President Weah, firstly, there was a commitment by the government of Liberia to work with C Square and expand their access. And it's a good thing that Americans have come on board and said, we're going to work with them, working with this group to expand the access of internet across the country. It's also a further demonstration of the Liberian government's good relations that it has with Americans. Remember, Liberia was the only West African nation that was chosen by the U.S. for its Feed the Future program, right? The Feed the Future program. Liberia the only, I think, one or two, not more than three or so African countries that the U.S. government chose. So it shows that we is developing a really formidable and strong relationship with the U.S. Despite some of the things, the pronouncement I hear about this, that, other thing, because that is the renewed focus of the Biden administration. Focusing on corruption in countries around the world. So some of the times they might seem specific to Liberia because that's where you hear the ambassador talk, but they also making the same comments in other countries overseas. But that hasn't hampered the relations with Liberia and the fact that they are fully aware that Liberia, firstly, is heavily democratic, unprecedented across the continent, but they're also making strides in various areas, including agriculture. That is why they've said, so don't mind they put the talking about, agriculture, blah, 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 blah. Government is making strides. There's been seedlings given to people, there's been new implements given to people, the forming farming cooperatives and all of that. So it is these efforts that the U.S. government sees and say, well, we need to pull abroad the Feed the Future program so that we can reduce global hunger and all different stuff. So those are some of the things, I wanted to talk about. There is a last thing before we can open the lines, finally.
Before you go there,
Yeah.
This integration of the internet access across 1 million persons in terms of benefit is good for Liberia too, because if you take for example the education system, that sector, so the Ministry of Education now will be able to decentralize some of our key online education activities.
Yes, good for health and education.
Okay.
Health and education.
Telemedicine becomes because
But that's a new concept.
Yeah, this is one thing that we haven't really done in this country, but telemedicine now becomes vital. So you can be in Tapeta, in Ami Monrovia, and we can perform.
They call it e-health.
Yeah, we can perform surgical operations, just by not being there virtually, and you can have all of the guys you need. So this is a big news for us as Liberians, even business-wise. You will see businesses decentralizing activities in those parts because they have access to digital, transaction. They have access to online transaction. It's also going to improve Liberia's online presence. So this is a big news for us. We must commend the president for this.
Lastly, I just wanted to mention that there was a major story that was done by one of the major U.S. outlets, major U.S. news outlet. Who knows about Washington Post? Oh yeah, Washington Post is such a huge outlet. Washington Post, New York Times, and this and that. They featured Tim Weah on yesterday. They were talking about the fact that this man is going to be playing for the U.S. Men's national team at the World Cup. But by the way they open up the story, that's what I wanted to talk about briefly. They opened up the story talking about President Weah. That's how they opened up the story, because they know that this is the son of a major icon. They said the name George Weah, in parentheses I put that, the name George Weah resonates across borders, generations, and genres, having flowed through the grand cathedrals of European soccer for a dozen years before sweeping into African football. This is George Weah they're talking about. Then they went on to talk about how, in fact, he became the greatest soccer player from Africa, became the top of his game, but he never played the World Cup. He took his son to the World Cup in 2010 in South Africa. His son got the motivation from there, and then his son decided to follow the game full time, and then his son eventually has been selected by the U.S. national team. He's going to be at the World Cup. They also talk about the love story between the young George and Claire Weir, how they met in Chase Manhattan Bank in the States, and then developed a wonderful love story. They got married, I think, sometime in 1993 or so. And have some wonderful kids, and then he went on to becoming the world best player, and then becoming the president of his country. So it's a wonderful success story that the Washington Post is highlighting. It's going. I'm sure it's on the decks of all U.S. senators and government officials right now. Let's open the lines right now, and then take a few callers before we can close the show. Maybe 5. 080-514-096 or 086-561-537. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning, Elbc.
Your name, where you calling from?
This is William B. Jabba coming in a group of Bobby. I'm calling for Sino.
Yeah,
Hey,
William. How is
what's up?
Sino?
Oh, Sino is doing great.
Okay.
2023 to just make sure we are continuing.
Okay.
Okay, I've been following your program this morning, but man, speaking on one range of issue, I'm grateful to you guys.
Thank you.
Those are things we continue to do because things we've been lacking. I'm not speaking to you, I'm a 47. I'm going to my 48th birthday. For me, I know something about the ethics. So we continue to encourage the young people. Take opportunity you got today on the judge we are. We never experienced this kind of opportunity. It's positive. And how can we go against something positive? Our country is heading in the right direction.
I know.
So we will continue to use the means to encourage people. We shouldn't mind if ones out there who living the stage, the comments who have found the stage. But this judge are never
Okay.
left the stage.
Thank you. Let's take more callers, Jabba. I'm so sorry. Good morning.
Hello.
Your name, where you calling from?
How are you?
Your name and where you calling from, please. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Go ahead.
We hear you.
Okay, thank you, Mr.
Oh, your line's bad.
Our line's bad. Let's talk to the other caller. Good morning. Good morning. Let's talk to the other caller. Good morning.
Hello.
Your name, where you calling from? Morris, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you for the show. I listen to all your colleagues.
Okay.
But these things that what I meant, so for the rock group, I got the distribution, they are putting people,
Yeah. Yeah.
So what the company will show you at the talent bar.
The man said you're goons. He said they are goons. I know, eh? Well, no, eh? You got less than two. The man get a little funny in country guy. Even though you want all the country man, you take the country guy and put it on a
But
little funny.
Sonny, when you work for small,
Open it 080-514-096. Two more calls. Good morning. I'm good. Your name, where you calling from? Mama, go ahead. No more confusion. That means the whole Central Liberia part is correct now. You're under our control. Let's take our last caller, bro. We gotta go. Good morning. Good morning.
Yeah, brother and your co-host, how you doing?
We're doing well. Your name, where you calling from?
I'm Steven Zone, I call from Zulu Whiskey.
How is Zulu Whiskey?
Relatively time, brother.
Okay, go ahead.
Waka, thank you for the good job. Really, your platform is considered to be the most articulated platform at 30 years. So I want to commend the first people that start to deliver it.
Okay, thank you.
You know, there's something both opposition and opposition has in common, and that thing is nationality. That is, we are all Liberians. So you find out that opposition will hide under that title to get some disgusting statements against our international partners, just for them to feel that Liberians are going against
Yeah,
foreign people.
yeah.
That's the motive, okay? So I don't want to be thankful to the leadership of the CDC for that intervention, for debunking to that statement made by frequency manner opposition.
Let's end it there. Let's end it there. We can't go further. We out of time. Well, that's all the time we have for this morning's edition of the show. This has been Micat Hour. It's a production of the Ministry of Information, Culture Affairs, and Tourism. That ministry is under the leadership. There's two leadership of Alejahu Julius Rennie. Alejahu is the Minister of Information. We come your way here every Friday at 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. My name is Boyka M. Fofana. I'm the Deputy Minister for Technical Services at the Ministry of Information. Today we talked about a number of things, including obviously the Vice President's address yesterday. The comments about U.S. sanctions and some of the people planning protest action and how the government has denounced that. We also talk about C-Square's partnership with the U.S. government to expand internet access in Liberia. Boyka Fofana again. I'm always here along with my colleague, the Assistant Minister for Information Services, Daniel Nooks Thomas. Daniel?
Yes, so thank you, Boyka, and thank you to the Elbc crew. It's always good having us doing this.